Hello everyone, it's Guild here. Guild Wars 2 just finished streaming the End of Dragons announcement stream. There was a lot that was covered. We have the End of Dragon trailer reveal, the Cantha story development, Cantha Reimagined and the map structure, co-op siege turtles, fishing and boats, Generation 3 Aurene themed legendary weapons, strike missions and encounters with some of the bosses, the new guild hall that will be showcased in the expansion, a new Mesmer Elite Specialization, and at the end of that video we also do have a quick recap, the alliances, the new game engine, when will beta testing begin, the release date for End of Dragons, and the pre-order bonuses as they cap off the end of that announcement. I have included timestamps to all of the following in the description below. You can swap to any part in the video. Hope you enjoyed the announcement. And one more thing, make sure you comment your account ID below and what you're actually excited to see in the expansion. And make sure to include that account ID for a chance to win a 2000 gem code giveaway. I'll be selecting 2 winners. Enjoy the video and hope you all enjoyed the announcement. There we go, the trailer.
There's familiarity in this strangeness. Like a song half remembered, a tune without words to carry it. I know you, and yet I don't.
You will soon, little one.
Who are you talking to?
Just an echo in the mist. A possibility.
Oh, I really do love the animation style. I'm actually curious to see like the fact that they're bringing old characters that we've already been accustomed
Their worlds
to.
are carved from the jade that
This
I
seeming
gave
to be like
purpose.
I think this is the June character that one of the voice actors said they were voicing, and I think we haven't seen Maya Trin until maybe a little later. But look at the visuals; it's so stunning actually, and you know, looking at some of these old maps that used to exist in factions. Like, okay, so let me rewind here, just a little bit. So this is the Oakville Forest, right? The Echoville Forest, however you want to pronounce it. And this forest originally in factions was like in a petrified state. Like the forest was still, all the life of this forest has been gone, like simply because of like the effects of Shiro Togashi before. And here we start to see that the forest is actually thriving again, like because it's been so long since that event happened. The forest has finally come back to life. It's no longer in its petrified state. So this is a significant change. So as for a new player, this is maybe visually stunning, but for an old player, this is more than that. You're literally seeing a map that used to be in a different state in Guild Wars 1, and now it's in a different state. It's in a state of life where it was, you know, before more of a death situation. Everything was petrified. There's just a lot of eerie, dark atmosphere vibe that it had to it. The previous game. So this is, to that player you see this, but to the average player maybe they don't, if never played factions. And so this in itself was a pretty big revelation in this trailer.
It's not just a spoke in some grand cosmic wheel.
Yeah, this belongs to House Zuhelter. That was the Kurzik side. The Kurzik side is basically like where that area was, the forest.
I'll find a way to save us all.
I'm wondering who this Asura is. Like, is this actually Taimi? Or because like that's Maya Trin, isn't it? That's Maya Trin right there. So I'm wondering what, like that definitely looks like her. Aether Blade outfit and all. So who's this Asura? Like it can't be Taimi because Taimi needs a robot to walk on. It's a golem. So this is a new companion to Maya Trin, maybe? I don't know. Maybe it's like someone else that we get. It's a new Asura, yeah. That's Council of Blunt. New replacement for Zoja. It feels bad if that's the new replacement.
The future is out there. What are we waiting for?
The cycle is reborn.
Aether Blades that were back there?
Yeah, look at that. Aether
And
Blades.
who
Look at how
was
they
that
just sneak out of
mysterious
Aether
Asura that
Blades
was
were back
next to
there.
Umbra? Could it be the replacement for the...
There's the story and setting. I'm actually going to do my timestamps now so I can actually edit
End of
this.
Dragons is the culmination of so much of what we've been doing in the Guild Wars 2 story up until this point.
We have a lot of really compelling open story threads that we've built up over the years, and we're going to pay off a lot of them in End of Dragons. And I think players should be excited about how we've weaved all these different interpersonal stories with the great cosmological questions of
So look at
Tyria
this. It's very
into some
stunning the way that
satisfying
they've
payoffs
kind of
that
got
I
these
think they'll
maps.
really
I
enjoy.
guess one thing you
Last
can
time
say
we
is
were in
time is for
Cantha
sure coming
was
over.
for the Winds
Also
of
given the fact that like the voice
Change,
actor
content
said
pack
she's
for
actually
Guild Wars
back
1.
here for the studio
And
to
what we
record more
basically
lines
saw
now.
was there is a lot of lingering consequences of Shiro's rise, and we teamed up with this group, the Ministry of Purity, in order to try to purify the region. They didn't stop at just trying to purify like disease. They started trying to kick out everybody else who didn't fit with their ideal image of what they wanted Cantha to be like.
And then they closed off to the rest of the world. And that was where we left.
They showed HGH, Kavlon, Imperial Palace, Underground, so pretty hype for... Yeah, they've shown the bits of pieces of what, like, for the nostalgic player that would instantly recognize if you played it.
So it's easy to imagine that because Cantha was closed off, that they would become a time capsule. However, they've been affected by the same events that have been affecting the rest of Tyria. The rise of Zaitan, the death of Balthazar, all of these things have had just as much of an effect on Cantha as they have had on the rest of the world.
We actually, as a team, fairly early on, made a timeline of all the major events that happened in the world and how they would have affected Cantha in order to try to figure out how this world would have been shaped over time.
Longtime fans who really loved Cantha and Guild Wars 1 are gonna find a ton to love, and frankly, new players might have their minds blown a little bit.
It wouldn't be Guild Wars 2, it wouldn't be the story of the commander without the commander's allies. In End of Dragons, we find ourselves traveling with Marjorie and Casimir. I think anybody who
Look at that, like that. So I think this takes place actually in Xingzhe Monastery, which is in Guild Wars 1. That's the starter island in the factions campaign game, and so I think this is like that map itself, which it's pretty huge. I have to say, like look at that, like this goes all the way to here. Actually, I think my cursor is hidden. Yeah, actually it's there. So yeah, no, like it's a pretty huge map. I'm excited to see how this turns out. And look at it, it's very stunning. Like they really did channel their artistic style for this more so than ever. They're going for a lot of bright colors, if you guys noticed. A lot of bright, a lot of summer kind of colors, spring kind of colors. You know, they're not going for a darker themed expansion, which is pretty nice. If you actually go back to Guild Wars 1's factions, I would say it kind of contrasts on a darker themed side. I think Prophecies had more brighter colors in terms of the style of visual setting that they did versus the factions campaign. But in Guild Wars 2 here, it's clear they're going for a much more positive, you know, very uplifting color scheme. And it's bringing
really
out the maps in a
misses
nice way.
Jory the detective is in for a treat.
The most important familiar face that's going to be accompanying us on our journey into Cantha is Aurene. Aurene's story has become sort of the spine of...
Look at Aurene, yo, she
Guild
blew
Wars
up,
2
honestly.
story.
Aurene is constantly grappling with her responsibility and how much she needs to do, and her trying to feel that out is going to have repercussions for the entire world.
In this expansion, we have really breathed life into every corner of the world that we could. You know, there are so many little moments throughout the world, moments that touch you, moments that make you laugh, moments that make you cry. You know, this team is so good at just bringing emotions.
I have to go back to this. This is really
little
beautiful.
moments throughout the world.
I missed
I'm sort of the spine of the Guild Wars 2 story.
Aurene is constantly grappling with her responsibility and how much she needs to do, and her
I do wonder
trying
if
to
the end of
feel
this
that
expansion
out
also
is
does
going to
signify,
have
like, if
repercussions
they
for the
actually
entire
do
world.
use the
In
expansion's
this
name as a way to
expansion,
actually
we
even
have
end
really
Aurene as,
breathed life into
as an
every
entity, right?
corner.
Like, or not as an entity, as a physical form of a dragon. And then maybe she just becomes the cycle Because they keep saying the cycle reborn. Does that mean like she just becomes the 6 symbols or something? The 6 elements that have been balancing Tyria. And so she's technically, her dragon form is done, but she lives on through the cycle. Because they keep mentioning that she's basically conflicted on all this stuff. So yeah, it's kind of showing that that's going to be a center in the story. Becomes the enemy. She's a prism. Yeah. She's getting buffed to take over the world. But we'll have to see. But look at this map. It's so stunning. Like, look at that. Wow, it's huge. This is beautiful. I see a lot of, sky scale. I see a lot of griffin potential. A lot of obstacles to do. Some griffin races will be done here. That's for sure.
There are so many little moments throughout the world, moments that touch you, moments that make you laugh, moments that make you cry. This team is so good at just bringing emotions to the surface.
What I'm most proud about is how we were able to really craft a story that very elegantly blends the gameplay elements that I think Guild Wars 2 is really strong at, with a story that just keeps a really frenetic pace and lets you live out in this world while also experiencing a lot of really cool gameplay moments.
There are so many things that I am excited about people experiencing for the story of End of Dragons. One, just from a design perspective, we have so much technology that is improved or has been entirely new since the last time we made an expansion. And as a result, this expansion has some really unique, cool set pieces that I think are going to blow people's minds.
We get some claps in chat. Cantha Reimagined.
My name is Ali B. I'm one of our senior content designers, and I work primarily in our open world area.
My name is Nick Hernandez. I am a game designer here at ArenaNet, and I am a content designer for the Xingje map.
So fans can expect from the End of Dragon maps to kind of really feel something new and different that they haven't experienced before.
With End of Dragons, things are a bit more differentiated between each of the maps, and each of them has their own unique feel. For Xingje specifically, tried our best to make content that hits on all gameplay types, right? Think of it like a vacation island. It's like this beautiful, serene, spiritual, spacious locale that feels both peaceful and not, right? Depending on where you are and what's going on.
So some of the highlights of the Ekavald map are definitely those gargantuan trees, the lake, the rivers that kind of pour into the lake, where you kind of have these underground rivulets and stuff like that, where the player can kind of traverse through there. Definitely those gargantuan trees kind of give you that verticality.
I definitely see like this being more like the maps looks like they're going to go for very big picturesque maps. Like every area in the map is going to be a place where you probably will sit and look at the scenery, screenshots, and then probably just jump off with whatever mount, either a griffin, sky scale, beetle, or things like that. Although I'm curious to see if there's even space for beetles, but I think it's clear that like they're trying to go for like very more visually stunning maps. Now besides that, like how do they actually implement the world bosses, or like the big boss of the big bad of this map, right?
And freedom of movement we talked about before. So if you've got a sky scale, that's going to feel really cool. So Cantha is definitely not the same as it was in Guild Wars 1. What you have to remember is that it's been 250 years. So how has that area evolved? What's the geography like now? Are the trees still petrified? Like what's kind of going on with that? As well as the people, right? So the people who were there 250 years ago might not be the same people, but there are definitely some familiar buildings and structures.
So what players can find, or will find with Xingje, is that it is topographically different than it used to be, but not to a point where there aren't familiar tones. The thing I'm most excited for when we finally get to release End of Dragons is just seeing how players feel about...
I like this. You love to see this. Getting to see the game and how like this map has evolved in the next game, right? Like from the previous
the maps in and of themselves. I would love to see how people feel about all of the work that's been put into the world and the world narrative, and how that gameplay and those stories make people feel, and just get reception on what they think of it. I think it's going to be really exciting.
The Siege Turtle. This is what I'm excited about.
I'm Kirk Williford. I'm a senior game designer at ArenaNet and a team lead on End of Dragons. My name is Brian Walter. I'm an animator here at Aurene.
So Siege Turtle is one of the most iconic and memorable creatures from Guild Wars 1 and Cantha. So when we first talked about a mount for End of Dragons, the Siege Turtle immediately made it on the list.
Oh,
and the
look
team
at that.
quickly got attached to it.
I can't wait.
Mounts are a defining feature in Guild Wars 2, and with End of Dragons, we wanted to continue that tradition. So the Siege Turtle is our first multiplayer co-op mount. The Siege Turtle being a multiplayer mount means you'll be able to pick up a friend and ride together.
Like, look at this.
Wars 1 and Cantha. So when we first talked about a mount for End of Dragons, the Siege Turtle immediately made.
Like, notice again, it's an improved design. It's a futuristic design. Look at that. And you clearly have the friend in the background. So I think the friend controls the turrets and you control the turtle. Yeah, I really can't wait to see the way they evolve this and kind of bring it to life in the game. And they did mention, we'll read it into it now. Let's
made
continue.
it on the list, and the team quickly got attached to it. Mounts are a defining feature in Guild Wars 2, and with End of Dragons, we wanted to continue that tradition. So the Siege Turtle is our first multiplayer co-op mount. The Siege Turtle being a multiplayer mount means you'll be able to pick up a friend and ride around together, but we wanted to make sure that both the driver and the passenger had something fun to do.
It's a perfect opportunity to bring new players into the game. Since they can just ride on the back, they don't need mounts previously to enjoy the Siege Turtle. You can pop up your mentor tag and they can jump on the back of your turtle and you can show them around the maps to areas they haven't seen before. Because Guild Wars mounts, we really put a lot of care and research into getting their behaviors to feel believable and alive. I spent months watching turtle videos while prototyping the animations for the turtle. Just turtles eating, walking, sprinting. Turtles do run. There's videos of it. I've seen them. So my favorite thing to animate on the Siege Turtle was just the simple walk animation. It really got me into the mentality of a turtle, watching these giant turtles and how they walk and what their foot placements are. If you actually toggle the walk animation in-game, it kind of maps out to more or less a turtle's walk speed. I actually did the calculations and it was like, oh my gosh, that's like the exact speed. Perfect, I nailed it. When you think of turtles, you don't really think fast.
Good research.
So getting this thing to run over terrain in a fun and rewarding way was an awesome challenge.
The Siege Turtle is a personal favorite of mine, and I am incredibly excited to see players be able to hop on one for the first time and really experience the power and awesomeness that is the Siege Turtle.
Fishing, there we go, and skiffs.
I'm Kirk Williford. I'm a senior game designer at ArenaNet, and I'm a team lead on End of Dragons. We've been wanting to put fishing in Guild Wars 2 for as long as it's been around. It just always came down to finding the best time and place. When we were building fishing for Guild Wars 2, we looked at our own personal experiences going fishing and found what was the most memorable. And for me, when I went fishing as a kid, I went with my family. And so when we bring that into Guild Wars 2, we wanted to think about how can we make that a multiplayer experience. You can fish off of docks, or we've created skiffs, which allow you to fish around the waters of Tyria by taking your fishing boat.
If we actually go back a little bit, look at that. There, you can actually have 4 people sitting in the boat.
We wanted the waters of Tyria.
Oh no, that's even more than 4 people.
Or we've created
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can actually have a party of 5 people in a boat,
which allow you to fish around the waters of Tyria by taking your fishing boat and exploring with your friends. We wanted the
So, does that also include like the Tyria continent or only Cantha? Because it sounds like it's a feature that's happening in the entire game, which means every single lake in Tyria will also be able to use this feature.
Waters of Tyria to feel as authentic as we could and most lifelike as we could to a real fishing experience. And so there are hundreds of different fish for you to discover in Tyria all across the world. There are so many that have been added to the game, and kudos to that first person who finds all of them. Including the common goldfish, as well as the most notorious catfish in Ascalon, Old Whiskers. End of Dragons has 5 new mastery tracks, including the Siege Turtle, skiffs, and fishing, each with their own levels of progression.
5 new mastery tracks, including these 3. So what the other 2 they made sure not to mention.
For players to discover as they explore Cantha. I'm most excited about the release of End of Dragons for players to really be able to come together and experience the world that we've been creating in Cantha. We've all wanted to go to Cantha for the longest time, and the team has done such a great job bringing it to life, and I just can't wait for players to see it.
I'm Chelsea Mills, and I'm a senior prop artist. In End of Dragons, we're introducing 16 new legendary weapons, all available on...
like I could see why they've introduced them as like themed over Aurene. But again, to be honest, I'm not really too much of a fan of the Gen 3 skins. If this is gonna be what they look like, all of them roughly, I don't know. They lose a little bit of uniqueness to them. Like they all just look the same in different format. And I feel like this is something that you could easily expect out of a gem store skin. So this one I'm honestly not too bit hyped up about. I appreciate the way they're trying to do it. Is like they want a consistent theme across all the Gen 3 weapons. I think that's a fair idea to go about it. Like, because you've done Gen 1, you've done Gen 2. What can you do differently for Gen 3 that you haven't already done for Gen 1 and 2, which is every weapon is its own skin. So I think maybe going for a very consistent theme in itself is a much easier one for them, and I think this is what's going to allow them to deliver it all together. But I don't know, like the animations look cool and everything because they obviously have legendary effects, but I'm not personally too much of a fan of it. But you know, it's a still cool looking skin. I'll probably try to go for it anyway, but I would have preferred like a more unique effect. Will depend on the effects of the weapons. Yeah, how diverse will it be compared to the other legendaries? Yes. It allows for us to probably get Gen 4, 5, 6 legendary weapons. Yeah, I think it's a good way for them to maybe then use this as a build-up, upgrade the Gen 3 to a much higher Gen 4 or Gen 5. I think that's a different route that they can now take if they want to do it this way. Or, I mean, maybe this is the way they go with all future Gen weapons, is that like each generation is now like themed over something important, right? Aurene was a very important thing in the game and still is. So this is what it's themed about, and then Gen 4 could be about something else. So it depends on what they're going to do. Although it's already supposed to be like the thing everyone loves in the game is the plot moving forward, it makes sense that they want that look available to everyone. Yeah, again, making more sense in the sense of the storyline and how you're connecting the dots to the weapons later, right? So I get for that, yeah. All right, let's continue.
On release day. This set of legendaries is inspired by the Elder Dragon Aurene.
All right, so look at that. The sword, the dagger, the staff. Again, I appreciate the look of the design, but it's very Black Lion chest weapon vibe in a way. I'm wondering if you can actually dye this color here. So like, look at this. This is yellow, right?
I'm Chelsea Mills, and I'm a senior prop artist.
Can you dye this into green, red effect, purple effect? It'd be pretty cool if you could dye the color of it,
Dragons, we're
the glow that
16
comes out of
new
it.
legendary weapons, all available on release
It's got a
day.
rainbow effect too, so
This
it's
set of
pretty cool
legendaries is
in
inspired
itself.
by the Elder Dragon Aurene, who plays a significant role in the Ender Dragon's story. From an art perspective, we wanted the legendaries to show Aurene's journey with the commander, from the first time you meet her as an adorable little hatchling, to now all grown up as our own Elder Dragon. The precursors represent baby Aurene, while the legendaries represent adult Aurene.
Yeah, look at that. That's a pretty dope effect. I can see
Aurene
the
is one of
effect
my
still
favorite
pretty
characters,
cool
and I'm so happy that we got to create a legendary set based on her. I can't wait to see players running around in game with the legendaries.
At least we're getting all the legendaries this time in the same expansion. It's not like going to be drawn out for 2 years. Or 3 years, I should say. Like...
Hi, I am Cameron Rich. I'm a senior game designer here at ArenaNet, and I act as the lead for the Encounters team. For End of Dragon Strike missions, we're taking some epic encounters from the story of End of Dragons, and we're creating really awesome, challenging 10-man versions of those encounters for you to enjoy. For End of Dragon Strike missions, we're doing something new in that we're adding challenge mode difficulty to each strike mission to release with End of Dragons. These challenge modes will be enabled shortly after launch, and they are designed to give our hardcore players, our existing raiders, something to really sink their teeth into. In addition to the challenge modes, we're also going to be revamping our reward system for strike missions to simplify and standardize them across the game. With End of Dragons creatures and combatants, we're taking a little bit of a different approach with design. One of the common problems that we're trying to address is coming across a creature that's of a high rank that feels like it just has a bunch more health and a bunch more damage. So instead, this time around, you'll see creatures unlock new abilities as they increase in rank. So if you find a creature on the field that's a veteran, it might be using one set of skills, and if you come across it again and it's an elite or a champion, it'll have unlocked some new skills along the way that will hopefully test you and your strengths as a player.
Yeah, I think that's a very cool take on it. Like to be able to give a bit more unique and difficulty in terms of skill level for each NPC that you encounter. So like a veteran acts differently than a legendary, and those two also act very differently than a regular one. There's more mechanics maybe that you have to go through. Interesting that they went with strikes, and I think it's a positive thing. I do love strikes in the game. I do feel like they are very good entry level for level 80s, and I hope to see the strikes that they add into the game to not just only be entry level, but then they can also improve stuff that would be very challenging even for like your average like top tier raider, right? They never mentioned anything about raids, so I'm wondering if like they're going to be full on like introducing strikes and maybe no raids. So that's very worrying, unless there is and they just haven't spoiled it just yet and they want to get a bit closer to that and they're just kind of building the hype for us. So I'm curious to see if there is going to be raids, future raids. People have said that they are promising at least 1 or 2 raids in the future. Yeah, no underwater content. I just noticed that. Not content, no underwater weapons approved. I mean, you'll get them in the gens, but of course nothing like specific only underwater. The 3-hour timer is over, Mr. Irma. All right, yeah, I'll take it after this review. Definitely. My medicine.
I am really, really excited for fans to get their hands on the strike missions for End of Dragons because there's a lot of surprises that we've been able to put into the design. Lots of opportunity to work together with your friends to overcome some really epic bosses.
Right. Where's my timestamps? There's the timestamp.
My name is Andrew Gray. I'm the content design lead on Guild Wars 2. So one of the coolest things about the Guild Hall is the location we chose. It is some fine beachfront property in the old Xingje Arena.
Look at that, chat. You can buy your own private island only here in Cantha. Like what? Like honestly, this is where we're gonna AFK now, right? They literally, this is what they say. It's a beachfront property. You know, top tier only for the richest of players.
Is the location we chose. It is some fine beachfront property in the old Xingje
Fine beachfront property, yeah?
Arena. That was one of the most beautiful maps in the original game, and it's even more beautiful in Guild Wars 2. And it also
What if you have a private island in real life? Well, then get one in the game then.
This has a lot of historical relevance because it was the location that the original leader of the Ministry of Purity was defeated at the end of Winds of Change. Guild acquisition works similarly to other guild halls in that you go on an expedition. We did build the expedition a little bit differently this time though, where we focused more on smaller encounters. We made, scaling a big cornerstone of it so that even if you're in with a small group, you can go in there and you can defeat it. It's a lot more encounter focused, so you're fighting individual bosses versus like, wow, that's a lot of enemies on the screen. So my favorite highlight is the amount of water in the space. We deliberately chose an island because we wanted it to pair really well with skiffs and fishing, and it really worked out well. It's just a ton of fun to go around with your guildies, going around on a little fishing trip at your guild hall, like without having to leave into comfort of your own guild hall.
Look at that, you have your own lake in the guild hall. Like, you have basically, like a 50-bedroom house in this guild hall. You've got a lake that you could just casually take your yacht out into and fish in your own lake. Cantha real estate is actually better than Tyrion real estate. This beats being in a guild that's literally made out of like gold, right? Because you can't sell the gold and make money. It's just part of the structure. But here, well, you could fish at the comfort of your own home and then sell the fish and make money. And when you're not, when you have a long day, you can just go back and sleep in the guild hall. In the gold guild hall, Gilded Hollow, it's just very, like you can't make money off the gold. It's the floor is kind of hard, like you can't really sleep on it. And in Lost Precipice, well, there's barely any deco space. Windswept Haven, there's a lot of sand and a lot of dunes that mess up more deco space potential. So here, there you go. You got deco space potential. You got a freaking lake with your own yacht that you can take out with your friends. And fish. Yeah, that's Cantha real estate's where it's at.
And then
guys.
also there's a really large guild arena that's right there on the beach.
Don't forget to clean the fish with a golden sink. Ah, yes, and if you have a golden sink, you can also clean the fish there. But look at this arena. Look at this arena.
And then also there's a really large guild arena that's right there on the beach. So if you're into like Mai Tai fueled guild battles, like this is the guild hall for you.
Mao Tai filled guild battles.
It's a really large guild arena that's right there on the beach. So if you're into like Mai Tai fueled guild battles, like this is the guild hall.
Anyway, look at that. It's pretty big. Pretty big. I don't know if this is big enough to do GVGs in though. It doesn't seem to be big for bigger players. Again, GVGs are a big thing. But this looks like a good 5v5 actually. I wonder how this compares to the other arenas. Might be the same size.
Hall for you. My favorite part about building the guild hall was honestly just spending time in the area. It felt like I was going on vacation every day because it's so beautiful. But beyond that, when we built the expedition, we decided to build one with a little bit more of a story behind it. You have some familiar characters there, both existing friends and some that you meet along End of Dragons that add a little bit more personality to the acquisition process, and I think players are really going to enjoy that. I'm most excited to see how guild decorators use this space, honestly. I'm always blown away at the amount of creativity, the crazy things that they're able to build in guild halls. And when we built this one, we specifically had them in mind. We wanted to leave lots of space for them to be able to build all of their crazy adventures in there. So I'm looking forward to see what they do with the space that we've made for them.
Elite Specializations, let's go.
Hi everyone, I'm Carl McLean, a senior combat designer working on Elite Specializations for End of Dragons. We're here today to preview some of the abilities for the upcoming Mesmer Elite Specialization, the Virtuoso. Let's jump right into it.
Yeah, I don't think we're getting that, but...
To begin, let's briefly cover the profession mechanic changes. From the start, you will no longer have access to clones. Instead of creating clones, the Virtuoso will stock a blade on themselves for use with their blade song profession abilities. Phantasms will still initialize, but will stock a blade instead of creating a clone when they finish with their action. We'll have some brief demonstrations of different ways to gain blades during this preview. Now, let's go look at the Virtuoso's weapon, the dagger. The first skill for the Virtuoso's dagger is a consistent projectile attack called Flying Cutter. Instead of a payout of a 3 auto attack chain, any target struck by 3 of the projectiles it launches will receive multiple additional attacks on the 3rd impact. The second skill of this weapon is Blade Call. This ability spreads daggers which pause at their ending point or wherever they collide with terrain, and then return to the Virtuoso for a second attack. If the blades strike an enemy during this ability, you'll stock a blade for your profession abilities. Here you can see a blade stocked above my character's left shoulder. Then stocking a second blade shows another above my right shoulder.
This class, again, like when Q and I were on stream, it feels very...
Unstable Blade Storm is the third
damage
ability,
heavy, like
dealing
DPS
pulsing damage along its path and hurling blades
it's a
at
good
enemies
change,
within
to be honest. I like it.
Okay, let's use some of these stocked blades we've accumulated.
It looks like a class that can
Blade
do a
Song
lot of
Harmony
burst damage.
is the Virtuoso's most accessible
Initial
blade
bursting.
song, expending each stocked blade separately over a period of time.
But
that
I mean,
deals damage
it's
to your
not like
target
it's
enemy.
the first time they're doing this, but it seems like this build
Blade Song Sorrow
specifically
Each of your
only
stocked blades
focuses
readies
on
itself
that. It's a very
and
damage
launches
intensive
toward your
build.
targeted enemy to
Unless
strike
there
them
is-
simultaneously while inflicting confusion. We'll rebuild a few of our blades after this by switching to a greatsword, then using Mirror Blade and Phantasmal Berserker.
Oh, that's pretty big.
Blade Song Dissonance. Combine all your blades into a single strike that dazes enemies. We'll regain a full set of blades by using the utility skill Blade Renewal. Blade Turn Requiem will block for a short time and deal damage to nearby enemies based on the number of blades stocked.
It looks like a hybrid type build, in my opinion. I mean, hard to see where the it really looks like I don't know, hard to see like what the other colonies could be, because it looks like it's only very specifically doing a lot of DPS.
Called Twin Blade
it's getting for a lot of
which
damage,
throws
but
daggers at enemies and
where did
grants
the colonies
bonus
come in
effects
place?
if you hit foes with them.
Minus confusion, because that's kind of like a standard with the Mesmer
As
anyway.
covered before, Blade Renewal will grant distortion and fully stock all blades that can be used differently for each of the blade songs.
Sorry, there's distortion.
Rain of Blades drops daggers on foes for its duration.
There's a few colonies that you could throw in. Yeah, but your typical vulnerability.
Sword of Decimation is a single impact.
It looks very damage heavy, very bursty.
In an area to strategically immobilize enemies.
It looks like a DPS. Yeah, it's a power class for sure. It's definitely a power class.
Psychic Force is an area attack around the Virtuoso that pushes enemies away. And finally, 1000 Cuts as your elite skill is a fire and forget line-based damaging ability that requires foes to stay in its narrow path for full effectiveness. So there you have each of the abilities that the Virtuoso can harness for the expansion. We'll cover the traits another time. We're excited to see how the daggers fly when you get your hands on this burly elite specialization. I've been Carl McLean, and on behalf of ArenaNet and the Skills team, thank you, and we'll see you again soon.
Nice to see. Nice.
Colin, you want to give us a quick recap?
I would love to recap that.
10 seconds.
Hey, just give a quick recap. Like, just throw it to him. Like, hey, you mind recapping this entire hour for us? Just you know.
All right. So what have we heard about? Cantha region, we've got a storyline, mysterious Dragon Jade technology, creatures and masteries, new elite specializations, new strikes, each with their own challenge mode, a new Cantha guild hall, fishing and fishing boats, we're calling those skiffs, and 2-player mounts. This is the first time we're adding multiplayer mounts to Guild Wars 2. And one of the things I'm most excited about this expansion is it draws on some of the best elements and lessons from our previous 2 expansions. For story, we looked at some of the best things that we did in Heart of Thorns and Path of Fire, and then we brought that approach into End of Dragons, and I think it's the best story we've done yet. And then we looked at replay value. And you know, Heart of Thorns, one of the big things that we've seen comments from our players about Heart of Thorns was they love the amount of replay value that expansion added to the game. And so we've really invested in meta events, in our strikes, having challenge modes, and having a full set of legendary weapons, the full 16 on launch day, day 1. And then the other big one we're investing in is our technology. And by investing in taking the game from DX9 to DX11, and a lot of the things that eventually will come with that, we really want to invest in holistically how do we make Guild Wars a better game, not just with this expansion, but for the future.
We've also got Alliances rolling into beta later on this summer. For anyone who's tuning in who's not familiar with the feature, Alliances is designed to deliver a more balanced world versus world experience by dynamically creating matchups using guilds, Alliances, which is basically a player-managed collection of guilds, and active world versus world players. This is very different from the current system that we've been using for a number of years that relies on worlds and world linking. And we know this feature is going to have a huge impact on the player experience in World vs. World, and we want to work with our players, with you, to get this right. And this is really why we're going to be releasing it in a beta state in phases. This is going to allow us to get feedback on each element of that system before we make it a permanent addition to the game. Also, we're working on upgrading the engine from DirectX 9 to DirectX 11. This is a long-awaited and highly requested update for Guild Wars 2. I think Ruby can attest to that one. We do have 4 Elite Specialization beta events planned for End of Dragons. The first 3 of these events will each include 3 of 9 new Elite Specializations. The 4th event is going to include all 9 Elite Specializations and the Siege Turtle.
Ooh, so in the 4th one, we actually get to try the Siege Turtle. That's actually exciting. Actually missed that in the first announcement.
You'll be able to play with the existing Elite Specs, you'll be able to play with the Elite Specs and Siege Turtles in existing PvE content, World vs. World, and in PvP.
And you get to play them in the existing game, so we actually get to try them out. That's actually really nice to try that beta out.
And just a general note, these betas are available to everyone, even those who are on free-to-play accounts. Now the big beat here is that the first Elite Spec beta is just 3 weeks away, starting on August 17th, running through August 21st.
Okay, that's like less than a month.
You'll be able to play with the Virtuoso, which we've got a rundown from Carl on, and 2 more yet to be revealed Elite Specializations.
And as we count down towards those betas, we'll be revealing all of the remaining 8 Elite Specs leading up to each of the betas. And speaking of, here's a little sneak peek at the silhouette of the next Elite Spec that you're going to find out.
Look at that. There's no subtlety in this, just like, you know, sneak peek.
That the expansion will launch in February, and you will be able to pre-purchase today at 11:20 a.m. Pacific time. That is less than 2 hours away. The pre-purchase bonus items are the Flame Serpent weapon chest, the Xingje mosaic cape.
Oh, look at that. Oh, that's a beautiful cape. Even more, you know, what's more beautiful is the map that it's in. And this is the shilling time, right? This is where like, gotta buy this. Gotta buy. Swipe your credit cards, guys. Swipe your credit cards.
And the Prodigy of Xingje title. You will get all of those as soon as you pre-purchase, so you can start showing off some Cantha flair in-game right away. Every edition...
Oh wait, she said right away. Wait, you can actually buy this and start showing this off now.
...of End of Dragons has some great extras, so let's go ahead and talk about those too. The standard edition of End of Dragons includes a free shared inventory slot and the max level boost. The deluxe edition comes with those two items, plus an additional character slot, the Xingje Dragon Boat Skiff Skin.
Oh, look at that. I want a boat. Look at that boat. That is God tier level boat.
A Cantha Raptor skin, which I love.
I love this Raptor skin, but I feel like this could have been done as a sky scale, to be honest. I love the skin. Could have been done as a sky scale.
And an identity repair kit. And then the Ultimate Edition, which is the best value, includes all of those items plus 4,000 gems to spend.
So here we go. You buy the standard one. You can get the Guild Wars 2 End of Dragons. You get the Flame Serpent chest. Select your favorite from a collection of exquisite weapon chests. You get your Xingje Mosaic Cape. You get the Prodigy of Xingje title, 1 shared inventory slot, and 1 max boost. If you do the deluxe, you get all of that, including a additional character slot, the Dragon Boat skin that we saw previously, the Cantha